It's been quiet in the world of Hytale as of late, but just as we get to the end of another month, we're treated to a brand new blog post finally addressing more about worldgen, plus with the latest team expansion, one can only assume that the second half of this year is going to be a bright one for Hytale Development. Welcome back to Kweebec Corner. My name is Connor, and today in Hytale News Updates, we look at the landscape generation blog post that just appeared on the site, breaking down all the new images and in-game footage as usual, and making sure we point out any cool Easter eggs we can find along the way. We'll address any updates with the team, and then finish off with a community fan art spotlight because there's been a whole lot this month.
This video is sponsored by ServerPro. ServerPro has everything you need to host the next big Hytale server. With support for modding and scripting, why not start your adventure today and grab a free Minecraft server which you can swap over once Hytale is launched.
Alright, before I get into detail explaining everything, let's break down the more interesting looking videos and images showcased. Not that one, that one's weird. First up in the video, we see a flat version of Zone 2 being slowly built up as landscape is added in multiple noise map layers. More on that later, but essentially what we're watching here is a super slowed down version of how world terrain generates using a set of instructions. For illustrative purposes, the team have added stages, but when you load up a world, the noise maps and parameters would already be decided, and so everything you see here would actually be happening more or less instantly in real time. It's nice to see that the high-rising canyons and winding rivers will be a staple of Zone 2's terrain. The second video captures a bit more of an up-close layering, including prefabs such as trees, foliage, and rocks. We can see the base layering of stone quickly skinned over by grass patches, snow, and various other greenery, instantly flooding a barren world with life. The majority of this blog post explains the use of noise maps in generating landscapes. Noise maps are basically a group of random numbers in a set, coded to follow a variety of specific functions, and they can be utilized in order to produce a lot of different generation effects. The team have made use of noise maps to form the different characteristics of each zone. This image shows a visualization tool used to view what different effects noise maps may have on the physical land that is generated. Here we see noise maps combined with something called height maps. These are an additional set of numbers that establish how high or low certain portions of the terrain are. In fact, all of the team's technical artists learn how to compose noise maps as a working technique. Noise and height help generate the terrain, but what's left is still a giant rocky husk that needs decoration, cue layers, covers, and prefabs. While the depth of the current maps at this stage allow for canyons, mountains, and even rivers, what they lack is any real life. Using multiple procedurally generated processes, they can change that. Layers come first. Much like noise maps, these are a set of instructions that are used to specify more detailed block depth and what specific types of blocks will appear on the surface. In this image of Zone 3, we see what layers would look like when applied, with various splotches of each type of block, dirt on the shoreline, and even some rocky formations in the distance. Second are covers, referring to the minor details like grass, foliage, mushrooms, vines, and all sorts of things we've seen scattered around. These act like a kind of area plan that tell the worldgen system what species of plants should appear in which layers. The team suggests an example of this. For instance, they may establish that dense shrubbery covers could only appear on grassy layers, while moss-related covers might only occur on rocky surfaces that are underground. To an extent, this allows them to pick and choose different ecologies, making for an easier segmentation of biome foliage and vegetation. The amount of colour and contrast we see just by looking through a few different biomes is immense, and this image shows that off the most for me. Finally come the prefabs. These are the arrangement of blocks built by the technical artists that we already know a lot about. They're distributed through the environment and add the final touches to identify the zones and biomes. We're told that trees are also considered prefabs but are incidental, and as such are frequently encountered by the player, distributed just as any other shrubs or foliage would be. This image shows the tree distribution within a biome of Zone 2 on a zoomed out scale, but beyond seeing the various tree prefabs, I wanted to glance at something you may not have noticed. For example, this temple building of some kind by the edge of the frame, and a campsite just near that on the border. There's some more ruins further along, most likely inhabited by skeletal undead. And of course we see a Zone 2 canyon river, but we can also notice here that the height and noise maps have been altered slightly to allow one side of the riverbank to be more level, as opposed to the opposite side. These rivers really do make the biome borders blend seamlessly. Larger structures and points of interest are also supported by the team. So far the team have thousands of prefabs for Adventure Mode's worldgen prepared, and modders will be able to use all of them or make their own when customizing the world. In order to make larger prefabs and structures appear more believable and like special encounters, they're configured separately from everything else. What you're seeing is Voronoi noise. This is a type of map with cell-like patterns. It's a natural type of pattern in which cells act as boundaries for where prefabs can and cannot spawn. In this case, the purple dots represent where large prefabs may appear and can be increased or reduced in size to make areas more dense. Altogether, these layers, covers, and prefabs form unique, dynamic environments that also incorporate handcrafted designs that provide purpose while feeling natural to find. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, is there anything else? And while as much as I'd love to deep dive into how cave formations work, the team only tentatively teased us, suggesting that insight into bigger systems like caving and dungeons, and even intricate zone relations will be covered in future blog posts, setting our pace for the rest of the year in my opinion. A few things to note in this image other than the obvious bear. We have various crops growing from the ground, a couple of crows or blackbird, and even some skeletal archers defending their dingy looking ruin. Seems to be in Zone 1, going by the player's wooden armor theme. Even more importantly, we see a shield. Knowing how the world is generated will allow for players to better understand, traverse, and eventually mold the world to their own desires. Extensively customizable config files will be available for all of that, and when combined with the asset creator tools of the model maker, as well as world building tools that we've seen glimpses of, you'll be able to create unique landscapes and environments of your very own. Last but not least, they show us an example that they've worked on themselves, a sci-fi world, something kinda like what you'd see out of Rick and Morty. There's lots of colours and a lot of variety. I feel this may even link into the other sci-fi themed things that they've been showing off relating to other game modes, but that, as usual, remains to be seen. And that's it. A little bit of a shorter blog post considering we're deep into 2020 and getting ever so close to next year, but that being said, the future looks bright as the team welcomed a new set of employees: Hectic Holly, Shay Glenn, Jelly Squid, Dravarius, KG, who works in talent acquisition, and Clockwork, who will be an executive producer. Welcome all of you to the team. I hope you can make the game as good as it can be. Earlier in the month, we also saw the account celebrate World Ocean Day with 2 divers and an array of underwater wildlife, including our classic crab, some sea cucumber things, and even a lobster. Now let's take a deep dive into some of the beautiful community art that's graced our lovely feeds this month, because there's been a lot, and it's worth showcasing. If you missed the game's design deep dive into Minecraft Dungeons, then make sure to check that out, it went up last week. And remember that you can follow me on Twitter at Kweebec Corner or join our Discord of over 2,000 members to discuss Hytale even more in the lead up to beta. I have a Hytale theory planned next week, so make sure to expect that sometime soon. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and thanks as always for watching Kweebec Corner. Stay safe and keep free.